Oh, we're live. Look at that. It is the Refuge Report. Today is Thursday, the 5th of June, 2025. It's the month of June. For those that don't know, Pride comes before the fall. And listen, if our men and women in uniform, just men and women, because there's only two genders, our men and women in uniform who have bled and died on behalf of this country get a day, you don't get a month based upon your sexual preference. And so maybe that offends people, maybe I don't care. So it's the month of June, not Pride Month, and it is the Refuge Report, the 5th of June, 2025. So we have some cool things, some exciting things going on here at Refuge. But before we get there, I meant to have this pulled up and I didn't because I suck. So you guys may be tracking on this wreck that happened in Gatlinburg, Tennessee recently, downtown. Allegedly, a lady had a heart attack, cardiac incident, myocardial infarction, right? Her heart, cardiogenic shock, stopped pumping blood. She was driving a car, somehow managed to wreck, I believe it was 4 other vehicles for a total of 5 vehicles piled up in downtown East Tennessee in Gatlinburg, 4:15 local time. Wreck was in the 700 block, blah, blah, blah. There were 5 cars involved, according to Gatlinburg PD, and at least 6 people injured in the crash were transported to area hospitals for treatment. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. The driver suffered an air quote medical episode. A spokesperson for the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, that's interesting, said a minivan accelerated unexpectedly, striking a pedestrian in a crosswalk before colliding with several other vehicles. The impact caused one of the vehicles to hit a road sign, which then fell and injured a second pedestrian on the sidewalk, cascading effects. PAC said 7 people were injured, including 5 people inside 2 different vehicles. 1 pedestrian was struck and another was hit by a falling sign. Why do I care? Well, because it's a really good teaching point. And it's a good teaching point from the standpoint of this is, by definition, a level 1 mass casualty incident, okay, because there's 5 or more casualties. Casualty doesn't mean dead. Just because Call of Duty or Modern Warfare or Hollywood or the television, Netflix have defined casualty as dead people. That's not what it means. There's 3 categories to casualty. 1 is injured, 1 is wounded, and then 1 is deceased, okay? So deceased is dead. Injured is you were injured, but not while performing the mission, if you will. Not related to whatever it was that caused whatever the incident was. Like you were on a mission and you were jumping off the truck to go deal with the enemy, and you jumped off the truck and you twisted your ankle. That's injured. Wounded is you were wounded by the thing. The blast, the explosion, the motor vehicle accident, the gunshots, whatever it is. That's injured, or that's wounded rather. You're wounded in the line of duty. Injured is I turned my ankle. Okay, wounded, usually from an outside mechanism. You tend to injure yourself. Wounded is from an outside mechanism. And then deceased is no respirations, no pulse. That's clinically dead, which is different than biologically dead. So 5 or more casualties, injured, wounded, deceased, is a level 1 mass casualty incident. Definitively, per the definition of mass cas, which comes out of, there's a whole acronym for this. It's called Methane Gas. Easy to remember when you're dealing with mass casualty incidents. That allows first responders to stack the appropriate resources at the appropriate place at the appropriate time. But one of the less rigid but more applicable definitions of a mass cas is any incident that overwhelms the response of the local emergency management, law enforcement, EMS, and fire. And so the different levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, are used more at like the federal level and sometimes at the state level to categorize something. But a mass casualty incident could be, it's me and Lauren, for whatever reason, we're driving down the road and a school bus rolls into a ditch, and it's 2 people on 30 people. That's mass casualty incident. Our resources are overwhelmed, okay? So Gatlinburg, probably not a terror attack, probably just somebody that had a heart attack, a medical incident, and got lead foot and rammed their minivan into a bunch of other vehicles, which caused cascading effects. 7 casualties. Most people think like, yeah, I got my first aid kit, I'm good to go. Yeah, and hopefully you do have your first aid kit. But your first aid kit, generally speaking, is your first aid kit, just like an individual first aid kit. The individual first aid kit is worn on your body, like the ankle kit that's on my leg right now. It's worn on my body because I don't know where the point of injury is going to be as I'm going throughout my day. And so rather than having to run back to the truck and get a kit, or we're at Refuge right now, so I could run anywhere. I got 3 kits right here. There's 2 more right there. I could run anywhere in this room. There's 4 more, 5 more, 6, 7 more right there. 8. I am surrounded by kits here, but most places aren't here, right? So I don't know where the point of injury is going to be. So therefore I have to carry my equipment on me because I don't want to be too far removed from the kit because that's going to take too much time and I or someone I love could expire. Right? That's why we make kits that mount to your headrest. I've noticed, interestingly, that the industry is starting to catch on to that, and there's a handful of knockoffs that have come out. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. That's fine. They can knock them off all they want, produce them in China, produce them in India, fill them full of garbage product, and they'll still never beat the Refuge travel fact. So, to each their own. But this Gatlinburg mass cas kit, or mass cas situation here, would probably overwhelm most people's ability to render aid. This also goes into triage. And so when we're dealing with triage, there's 4 primary categories for triage. One is kind of like stoplights. Remember, hopefully you know what a stoplight looks like. We've got a yellow, we've got a red, a yellow, a green. Okay. We had one more category to triage, which is black. And so red is immediate. These are the people that need help immediately, that we have the equipment and we have the skills to intervene immediately to stop the stopwatch to death for the preservation of life. Okay, so this is going to be tourniquets, wound packing, chest seals, probably some airway management, moving the casualty off the X away from where the bad thing happened to, behind cover ideally, whatever that might look like, right? That's immediate. I can do something about this and they need immediate help. They have arterial bleeds, for example. Yellow is delayed. They have wounds that are not immediately life-threatening. They will be or could be if I don't deal with them sooner or later, but not right now. Then green is what's called minimal. Minimal is like, I lost my fingernail. My toe hurts. I think I got a scratch on my earlobe. Like this stuff's not gonna kill you, okay? Often referred to as the walking wounded. And then black is what we call expectant. And expectant means either they are already deceased, which with pre-hospital trauma medicine, clinical death means they have no pulse and no respirations. Could I fix that? Maybe, depending on the modality of injury, sidebar here. Maybe, depending on the modality of injury, if that's my only patient, right? If it's not trauma related, meaning it's not critical bleeding, there's a chance using CPR and AED, I may be able to shock this person back into an appropriate rhythm for their heart, get their heart pumping blood again. If it's the only casualty, if it's the only patient. But if I've got somebody over here who's got their leg blown off and they're just spewing arterial blood from their femoral artery all over the place, I can throw a tourniquet on that and press pause on that situation rather than being tied up for 5, 10 an hour with this patient over here doing CPR, AED, trying to shock them back. So when we go to black, that's expectant, which means somebody who's already deceased, no pulse and no respirations, or whose wounds are so grievous that they exceed our ability in the field, using the equipment and training that we have, to treat them for the preservation of life. And so when we triage, we start at red, immediate, then we work to yellow, then we work to green. And triage is a constant process because somebody who's yellow could go red real quick. Working on somebody who's red, immediate, can now take them into delayed, right? If they have an arterial bleed, that's an immediate problem. Throw a tourniquet on that, work through the March algorithm, massive bleeding, airway, respiration, circulation. I get back to circulation in a pre-hospital environment. That means, in part, that's the onus to recheck my medical interventions and go, yep, tourniquets are holding, wound packing's holding. I like this patient is stable. They're not great, but they're stable. Okay, they've now moved from red into yellow. So triage is an ongoing thing and it's a dynamic thing, which brings us back to Gatlinburg, mass cas incident. I can't say this enough. You gotta have a kit on you. There needs to be kits, there needs to be equipment at the point of injury. You need to know how to use them. And, in the prepper sphere, you hear all the time, 2 is 1, 1 is none. 100%. I have 2 tourniquets on me right now for me, just for me. And I'm here at Refuge. So how do we elevate? What does elevation look like? Well, S-March-E, S is scene safety, March is massive bleeding, airway, respiration, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, and then we get to E, which is expose, evaluate, right? Trauma naked, cut their clothes off of them, unless they're in a situation where, like in a wilderness setting where we need the clothes to maintain body heat, right? Which is a different conversation, literally different class. But expose, take their clothes off of them, evaluate, do a patient assessment, evacuate, get them off the X, continue to move them away from where the problem happened, and then elevate. What does elevate look like? Typically, right now, rule of law, it's call 911, say, hey, we're in Gatlinburg, there was a mass casualty incident, I need law enforcement for crowd control and traffic control, and I need ambulances. Start rolling me 7 ambulances. Okay, this is what I'm looking at. So you start rolling resources your way when you elevate. But elevate can also be, I got an ankle kit on my ankle right now. I got a tourniquet in my back pocket. I got a travel fac on the back headrest of my truck, and I've got a stomp bag in the bed of the truck. Well, what do you need a stomp bag for? Because it's filled with tourniquets and pressure bandages and gauze and the ability to take vitals and hemostatics and airway management and fluids and splinting and all the things that I might need, that if I happen to roll up on a school bus in a ditch, or if Susie has a myocardial infarction and lead-foots her minivan into a bunch of pedestrians, or you've seen an increase in domestic acts of violence as well. And so elevate, going back to this idea of layering, the larger the mechanism of conveyance, the bigger the kit is for me, right? So you want to layer your capabilities here, because a Gatlinburg type mass casualty incident is more common than you would think. This happens regularly. I also can't, I'm gonna pull up the chat because I don't currently see the chat. And amazing statistic that I've recently become aware of. Look at everybody in the chat. What's up, y'all? So during the global war on terror, Iraq and Afghanistan, there were 19,000 applications of the CAT tourniquet. This is an earlier CAT right here. This is a CAT Gen 4 that they have iterated over time. North American Rescue CAT Resources has iterated from the Gen 1 to now the Gen 7. There were 19,000 applications of the CAT. There were 13,000 applications of the different various soft T models out there. It's a total of 32,000, and those numbers come from the Committee on TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. Those aren't the entirety of the casualties, but if we just look at critical bleeding in the extremities, 32,000-ish, okay, over a 20-year period. So what does that work out to? About 1,500 a year, okay? Now check this out. From the Department of Labor, Bureau of Statistics, during that same period in the United States of America, at work, there were more than 100,000 workplace fatalities. Okay, now let's compare apples to apples. There were far fewer people deployed in the GWAT than there were at work back home. Okay, but 3 times as many people died at work per year, an average of almost 5,000 plus or minus in the range of 5,000 people per year died at work in the United States of America than they did during the global war on terror. Now that's taking, again, nothing away from the men and women who have served this country in uniform. But what hopefully it is doing is shattering these paradigms that you have in your brain about, I'm at work, it's safe here. Nope, not statistically. And so most people at work, they're like, yeah, we got a first aid kit. Where is it? What's in it? Do you even know how to use what's in it? Gesundheit, Lauren.
Thanks.
Lauren's got the sniffles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Most people don't know where their workplace first aid kit is. And if they did, they don't know what's in it. Nobody opens their first aid kits until they need it. And then they need it, and then they realize, like, there's like 4 Band-Aids and a couple of aspirin in here, and Jimmy lost an arm. Now what are we supposed to do? Okay? What's up?
Somebody said Kevin needs to stop interrupting.
Kevin is, you know what? Keep your mouth shut, Kevin. So, I can't stand that guy. I think he's a Fed. So anyway, at work. Sorry, Kev. I'll get you later. I think he's got a TBI. Quick, check him.
We have a casualty incident.
That's just one. That's just one off. So now, let's say you're Kevin. What do we do here? So first thing we want to check is pupil dilation. If he's got 2 different sized pupils, that's indicative he's had a traumatic brain injury. We're also going to look for leaking cerebrospinal fluid from the ears and nasal passages, which is going to be a clear viscous fluid. That's indicated. We're also going to look for Battle's sign, or AKA raccoon eyes. So have you ever seen somebody who's had a broken nose where both of their eyes black up really bad? We're going to look at that. And then telltale is altered level of consciousness. Now, Kev appears to have an altered level of consciousness. He's on the floor. He also has no respirations and no pulse, so
he's dead.
He's clinically dead. Sucks to be him. So anyway, back to workplace. Most people don't even know where the first aid kit is. They haven't looked in it in a while, and they don't look in it until they need it, and then they're sorely disappointed in what they have on hand. So for a corporate client, we've been building a curriculum that in part entails OSHA 3317, which is a voluntary set of, they're not statutes, but they're just strong suggestions, which does tie into OSHA ANSI ISEA 308.1-2021, which goes back to you need to have a commercially available tourniquet, windlass tourniquet, within 4 minutes. This is interesting because the OSHA statute says that you must have a comprehensive first aid kit and people trained in its use if there is not a medical facility, what's the exact words, within proximity of the work site. And so that, to me, within proximity of, that's a definition that one could drive a truck through. Define proximity. Oh yeah, Mr. OSHA guy, there's a hospital 45 minutes from here. That's the one that we're in proximity to. Nope, OSHA defines it as the medical site has to be within 4 minutes of the job site, which is why the OSHA standard ISEA ANSI 308.1 says if there's not a medical facility within 4 minutes, there has to be a kit with windlass tourniquets within 4 minutes on the job site. So that's where that 4 minutes comes from on OSHA, even though we all know if we have a femoral bleed, right, because your femoral artery is the diameter of your thumb, and you got 2 of them, one on the inside of each leg. if you have a femoral bleed, you got about 90 to maybe 120 seconds, depending on if it's a partially or fully severed artery, before you lose 50% of your blood volume and pass out. Okay? So if it's 4 minutes to get the tourniquet and it's 2 minutes to lose 50% of my blood, that means it's max 4 minutes before I lose all of my blood and are dead. By the time somebody has just gotten to the tourniquet, the patient has died. That's a problem, which goes back to having the equipment that you need at the point of injury. And since we don't know where the point of injury is, you should have something on you at all times. So hopefully that's all making sense. Striker Cade, I agree. Needs to be amended to a committee on TCCC. So it's not approved, it's recommended tourniquets. So COT-C will not adopt any liability for any product. They only make recommendations. So COT-C does not approve anything. They only recommend. So it's Committee on TCCC recommended tourniquets. Because commercially available tourniquet could be anything. I mean, this right here, this is a Recon, which Recon went out of business, and they, this is an early gen cat. Recon went out of business. They were, let's just say, strongly encouraged through litigation to cease existing, and then have become Rhino Rescue. All of these are made in the United States. They're not made, they're made in China, and they're sold out of Las Vegas here in the United States. And the problem with these, this is a knockoff of a Cat Gen 4. The problem is this inner constricting band right here is made of nylon, not Kevlar. And this nylon cannot support the pressure that's put on the inner constricting band when you turn the windlass, and the nylon will break, and then the inner constricting band is gone. We're no longer compressing the artery. We have an uncontrolled bleed again. So these, and if you're like, yeah, but you know, they should be fine. Bear, didn't you used to have these in your kits, you know, before you had Refuge? Yep, I did, before I knew any better. And then I started training with these, my own personal kits, and I started breaking them. And I was like, oh, that's a problem, which is what, this is an old cat, orange cat. And this old orange cat, I would rather have this old orange cat than a brand new Recon or a brand new Rhino, because I use old cats all the time and they still work. I break new knockoffs all the time and they don't work. An example of that, if you've been to class, you've seen this one. This was one of my EDC tourniquets, and this is a Cat Gen 7, and it's so beat up that the inner band is now completely out of the outer band. Right, so do tourniquets have a service life? Yes, they do. But this thing here, if I had to have it, this is a legit cat. If I had to have it, let's go ahead and get that. Get a good pull. Good pull. Right there. Sticky stuff to sticky stuff. Turn the windlass. Oh, yeah, buddy. Get that through the C-clip, and that is absolutely working. Is it ideal? No, it's not ideal. This thing's past its service life, but a real one is so good that even when it's past its service life, it still freaking works. The fake ones are so bad that even when they're brand new, they break. Okay, so that's how far the gap is in between the knockoffs and the real ones. And so I agree with Striker Cade. OSHA should say in their statute, not just a commercially available tourniquet, windlass tourniquet, but a Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet. So, what's up, Matt Bear? Somewhere in here, I've got another orange Recon. Oh, probably in a bin on the other side over there that is broken. The windlass is just off of it.
Hallie came to me yesterday, or the day before, and was like, I found this dad's cat in my room, and it was a black one, and I was like, she goes, what's this little thing? She pulled out the little red thing out of the windlass. I was like, what?
Yep.
And I was like, that's not a cat, honey. That's a Recon. And
Yep.
what is that for? The little red thing.
It's the little red thing is a pen for writing the time.
Oh.
Which is nice to have, not need to have, and will come off anyway. Sharpies for the win.
Yeah.
Because yes, we're gonna write the time on the time tab here, but the predominant reason that we have a time tab is to retain the tail. And mostly what we're gonna do, you could put a time here, and it doesn't need to be to the minute, because depending on which white paper you read, they'll say safe time of application of a tourniquet is 2 to 4 hours. We know, again, from GWAT and Committee on TCCC, longest application of a tourniquet was from Eastern Afghanistan to Grafenberg, Germany, 19 hours. Soldier had one of these on, had no permanent damage to muscle or to nerves after 19 hours. Does CAT recommend you leave one on for 19 hours? No. 2 to 4 hours is what they recommend, which then goes into golden hour and elevate. Who are we taking this person to? And then you get into prolonged field care and what's called tourniquet conversion, which is literally a different class. What do you got?
Tristan Davis asked, any idea when stomp bags are shipping? Order one April 20th. We are hopefully sending them out mid-month, this month.
Correct. We're waiting on bags, but we should have those bags like literally any day now. So, and built to order. Built to order.
We have 184 people here. Can we tell them what the news is?
Yeah, we should probably do that. So the big news is one of our Refuge train-to-trainer alumni, Jeremiah, saved a guy's life with the soft T. There's other big news, but that is big news. Mm-hmm. He rolled up on a scene. He just come to train-to-trainer class, rolled up on a scene. EMS was already there. It had a driver. It was a motor vehicle accident. Vehicle hit an immovable object.
Logging truck.
A logging truck. And the driver had an impinged leg and crushed his leg. And EMS could not get their cats that they had on site around the driver's leg, which tells me EMS has never trained with a freaking cat. Mm-hmm. Okay? And do not assume, we hit this all the time in class, do not assume just because the ambulance has arrived, everything is going to get better. Because we had a student in here 2 classes ago, he says, hey, I'm ashamed to admit that I have learned more in 2 days at Refuge than I learned in a year of NAEMT, National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians. Okay? You take the cat apart, you go around the impinged limb, you go back through the buckle, you pull tight, do tourniquet stuff. Okay? So you can absolutely do impinged limb things with the cat, which is one of the things we train in class. Jeremiah rolls up, he's got his soft T, he unhooks the tail from the buckle, goes around, pulls it, tightens it down in the presence of EMS, saves the guy's life. Huge news, super thankful to Jeremiah.
That's 145.
145, already in the process of replacing his equipment. Bravo Zulu, Jeremiah, good job. The other big news is where you see us sitting currently within the next couple of weeks is not where you're going to see us sitting, because we are in the process of building out what we're calling the Rec Room, which is the Refuge Education Center. It's also short for record this fly. It's going to die. You want to end up like Kev, fly? Come at me, bro. So the Rec Room, we have another building not far from where I'm sitting right here, and we are building out that building specifically as a classroom. So that's going to do a lot of things for us. Number one, we have a dedicated space for classroom, which is awesome, because that will mean that we don't have to shut down operations here where we're sitting, with sew shop right there, fulfillment right there, shipping right there, customer service right there, exec team right there. We don't have to shut all of that down because we're throwing flashbangs, shooting blanks, spraying fake blood everywhere, which is a blast. We love doing that. We love doing that so much, we're investing in another building to be able to do that at. And that's going to be the classroom. In the classroom, this backdrop that you see right here and all the media stuff is moving over there at the front of the classroom. If you've come to class, you understand, because usually students are right here, right? They're right where the camera is, right here. So we're replicating that same setup over at the other building, where we will be producing lots and lots and lots and lots of content. We've already started a Mighty Networks for our Train the Trainer alumni, where we've been uploading scenario write-ups, videos, after-action reports, liability waivers, best practices, all that stuff for our Train the Trainer alumni. All that's been going up on the Mighty Networks already, which is part of the Train the Trainer package. But we're going to have a classroom, a digital classroom, the Refuge Rec Room. Then we're going to be filming all that content over there. And so not only do we have our own classroom now, dedicated classroom, which is awesome, we also have the Refuge Rec Room, which will be an ongoing digital classroom, subscription-based digital classroom. So,
and we'll also have guest educators who will come and do segments. So if you can't travel for things like radio class or something like that, you're going to get to be able to do that.
Yeah, we're already working on building out who is going to be coming here to deliver digital blocks of instruction, and it's going to be awesome. I will say this, that digital blocks of instruction, like we just did Remote Responder and Local Prepper, shout out to Local Prepper, he did an awesome review video of the Remote Responder, our 4-hour virtual. That is, there's a difference between instruction and training, right? It's a great place to start, but it should never be where you stop. You should onboard the digital information, and that should spur you to action. Whether you come here and train with us, or you take your trainer kits and you go train with your homies, or your church security team. We had one church on the Remote Responder had 24, 28 people, security team people, all watching at the same time. And I'm like, that's what I want, man. That's what I want. So the digital information, the digital instruction is great. And we're going to be providing even more of that going forward. But it doesn't end there. It should never end there. You know, we should all understand this. Like, let's say I want to learn jujitsu. Okay. You don't watch some YouTube videos on jujitsu and go, check, got it. I'm a heel hook expert now. No, you're not. You got to go do it and do it and do it, right? And fail your way forward until you gain proficiency. So, same thing applies with the digital blocks of instruction that we're putting together as well. But we are putting together digital blocks of instruction by popular demand from y'all, because so many, I mean, hundreds, thousands of people have asked for it. So we're doing it. We're building it out. It's the Refuge Classroom, Refuge Education Center. Stay tuned for all of that. Now, we do have a one-day class coming up here pretty quick here in Spiro, Oklahoma, that is lecture and practical application in the morning and scenario in the afternoon. That is the Refuge Responder class. It's June 22nd here in Spiro, Oklahoma.
First class at the new center.
First class at the new facility. Strongly encourage you to come out. You will be the inaugural class at the new facility. That's going to be awesome. I'll be there. Mike will be there. What do you got, Lauren?
That is a prereq for Train the Trainer. So if
Yes.
you wanted to do Train the Trainer and you found out you have to have one of our other classes completed, that one counts.
Yep, 100%. That's a good point. Yeah, I was messaging back and forth with Chris in Georgia, who he's on the safety team at his company there. And he's like, hey, I want to come train the trainer so that I can come back and train my guys at my company. I'm like, that's awesome. He goes, what's the prereqs? I was like, well, what most people don't understand is Train the Trainer is about how to teach the curriculum. It's not about me teaching you how to perform the curriculum. You should have at a minimum, baseline knowledge of the curriculum before you come to Train the Trainer, which is why there are prerequisites. And so this June 22nd class serves as a prerequisite for Train the Trainer, which I believe is in November, 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Yes, let me double check.
Yeah, I believe Train the Trainer is November 9th, 10th, and 11th. We also have, do not forget about Wilderness Responder. by Monday of this week, myself, Mike, Philip, and Heath are all going to have our rucksacks packed out per the packing list and brought into the office here so that we can weigh them, and as part of the cadre go over our different loadouts and how we skin these particular cats. You know, sleep kit, for example, right? What is that looking like? Food, what is that looking like? How are you carrying your water, et cetera, et cetera. And if you go onto the website, refugemedical.com, and you click the training tab, on the wilderness responder class is a whole, there's 4 pages there of loadout, of curriculum, and this is an ECSI accredited class. It's their 36-hour comprehensive wilderness medicine curriculum that we are teaching via 3 days in the field. So we'll do 2 overnights in the field. And so you got to carry in all your stuff. Now, as part of this class, you're getting more than $500 in medical equipment that you take home with you. In fact, we just recently spec'd out the bag that we're going to use for that a couple days ago. And so that'll be a 511 Rush Moab 10 sling bag. It's 9.5 pounds. Add this to your gear list. It's 9.5 pounds of medical equipment for the wilderness trainer kit. Okay, and so it's a comprehensive kit. It's bigger than an adventure kit. Lauren?
I was just telling Heath that I think I want that kit. Because
Yeah.
I have the adventure bag, but I was like, but I love sling bag. Like, I love the sling backpacks. And I feel like I would carry that around more with my gear than I would the adventure.
So it's just a matter of time before we make our own sling bag. I thought about getting some SOE sling bags in order to do this. But I know lead time on SOE is sometimes a challenge, and wilderness responders coming up pretty quick. What do you got?
The bald firefighter asked, does this require prior medical certification for the wilderness responder? I'm assuming.
No. Nope. Wilderness responder, the bald firefighter, go on the website and look at the curriculum. And I also want to clarify, we're not teaching TCCC or TECC, Tactical Emergency Casualty Care, in the woods and calling it a wilderness class. This goes way deeper into medicine, like way deeper into medicine. And so we'll be teaching things like part of the curriculum is, again, it's a standardized curriculum through ECSI, Emergency Care and Safety Institute. Part of it is how to apply a commercially available tourniquet. Check. Gosh, we're good at that. Cool. But also part of that is, how do I make an improvised tourniquet? And if you look at the packing list, part of the packing list is you got to bring cravats with you, triangle bandages. Cool. For what reason? For all the reasons. Because this is everything. This is a pre-filter for my water bottle. This is a sling for either my rifle or a busted arm. This is a mobilization for a twisted ankle. This is a tourniquet. This is wound packing. This is a pressure bandage. This is cordage. This is signaling because it has contrast and motion. This is a do-rag. This is used for collecting dew in the mornings off of the tall grass, that if I don't have anything to drink, I can drink with this. This is a headband. This is char cloth waiting to happen. This is a belt if your belt breaks. This is equipment repair. This is, all it is a triangle of cloth. This is the Warrior Kid Medic triangle bandage, which I like a lot because it's printed with all the different ways, how to make a tourniquet, how to make a pressure bandage, what to use for wound packing, how do you make a loop hitch tourniquet, how do you wrap hands and feet and use it for a splint, and it's great. It's great because it will cause you to remember, even if you've trained these things, like, oh yeah, I can use it for that. And so this is lots of things, especially in a wilderness setting. And so there's a lot more comprehensive medicine in the wilderness class, like head to toe patient assessments, differential diagnosis, dealing with, internal traumas, all the way down to like water purification. Why? Waterborne illness is a thing. Okay, cool. The H in wilderness is hike or helicopter. So do we deal with head injuries in wilderness? For sure. But in our March protocol, or March algorithm rather, do we hike this patient out or do we need a helicopter? Okay. What if they're on the side of a cliff? Why is there rope on your packing list? See, so there are layers to this game. What do you got, Lauren?
Also, I don't know if you know this, but we're down to only 13 spots left.
Oh, yeah.
And I have 2 people who were talking to me yesterday about their spots.
Yep.
So if they get it, we're going to be down to 11.
Yep.
And also, this is one of our more expensive classes, but it's because it's 3 days and you're literally out there for 3 days. We do have Affirm and PayPal credit. So
Yep.
if you need to do payments on the class, you absolutely can.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, you can break this into payments if you need to. We have a few students that are doing that for wilderness. And it's going to be an awesome cadre of instructors. Myself, medic Mike, 28-year paramedic, doctor of Marines prior to that, accredited instructor for, 43 different things. Like he's got all the certs and all the stuff. Philip and Heath, and then Striker Cade is coming out for this class as well, total badass. And Ed from the Iridium group, total badass, is coming out. So we're gonna have a minimum of 6 instructors to a maximum of 20 students. So high instructor to student ratio. And this is not gonna be 3 days in the woods with Bear where I tell you stories about how cool I am. We have an accredited curriculum that we are teaching, and you will leave with an ECSI certificate of completion and accreditation for comprehensive wilderness medicine. So this is a heavy lift. This is an awesome class.
Also, if you want to go on to become a trainer for the wilderness responder of ECSI, you have to have completed the course, which this would be your first step. So you would come, take our course, you complete it. Then if you wanted to add that to your teaching
Yep.
credentials, you can go on to take their version of our train the trainer.
Yeah,
I was talking to Mike about that yesterday.
Yeah, so this puts you in the pipeline through ECSI to become a wilderness medicine instructor if you chose to do that for giggles or because it's something you're super passionate about and you want to teach other people how to do this. So it's an awesome class. That's a wilderness class. However, don't sleep on the June 22nd class because that is a prerequisite for Train the Trainer. And I wanted to, real quick before we jump off of here, you know how we tell you guys, if you have any questions, call the store. The number's right there on the website. Click the Contact Us tab or use the chat or send us an email. We had an email that came in, and this email's amazing. This is from Meredith. And check this out. Hi, I was wondering which first aid kit would you recommend for a carpenter in the Canadian Arctic that often works alone and is quite a medevac flight away from a real hospital. Preferably something he can wear on his body so he doesn't have to go find it when it's needed. My husband works away, and for the next year or so, he's going on long rotations in the high Arctic. Safety risks he's most likely to encounter: 1. Accidents on the job. 2. People behaving badly in the communities, super high crime rates. And 3. Animal attack, a dog or a polar bear. And I was sitting in my chair, reading my book this morning, drinking coffee before I came into the office, and my wife was reading this to me, and I was like, a polar bear? Okay. Do we have a kit for that? Yes, we do. But I'm telling you, praise the Most High. Our physiology is the same, right? We got to keep the blood inside the body and make sure we can maintain reliable respiration. That's what the March algorithm all boils down to. Am I safe? Is the blood contained? Am I breathing? Next, are they safe? Is their blood contained? Are they breathing? Okay, and then elevate. And the how and the why of all that, we go deep in that in class, right? But that's what it all ladders down to that. Safety, blood in the body, make sure you can breathe, call for help. Cool. But polar bear? I was like, wow, I've never spec'd a kit for potential polar bear attacks before. And so the recommendation that we came up with is a bare minimum on his carpenter's belt while he's at work, because the bare minimum will do massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, as well as lots of boo-boo, wound closure, steri strips, etc., etc. Good set of shears on there, and a Cat Gen 7 windlass tourniquet. So good to go for workplace injuries right there. Bare minimum worn on his carpenter's belt. But you have to have your equipment at the point of injury. And since I don't know where the point of injury is going to be, because 3 times more dangerous at work than the global war on terror per the Department of Labor statistics, okay? I don't know where the point of injury is going to be, which means I got to have something on me, which gets into EDC, everyday carry. So I said bare minimum on his belt, and then on his person when he's going to town, a slick kit, Sexy Legs and Khakis kit, which is a small vacuum sealed kit that's got pressure bandage, hemostatic, gauze, chest seals in it, and a soft T tourniquet in his pocket. And he can put that in his jacket pockets as he's going to town. Probably not his pants pockets, because I'm guessing this dude is going to be layered up because he's in the Arctic Circle, right? So accessibility becomes a thing as well here. And so that was my recommendation. Bare minimum on the carpenter's belt, and then slick kit and soft T on his person, in his jacket or in his coat pockets, that as he's coming and going to town, taking the trash out, and oh no, a polar bear. Hopefully the dude's got a 10 millimeter, maybe a Draco. He's just cooking off rounds, a 7.62 by 39 out of a shorty. I don't know. I don't know what you use for polar bear. 12 gauge slugs. Terry, what do you? If a polar bear was trying to eat your face right now, what kind of weapon would you want to do with this polar bear? Points at machine gun by the front door. That's a fair answer.
I mean, if I had my choice.
That's a fair answer.
Polar bears do not try to eat people, okay?
Yeah, they do.
They're too cute.
No, Lauren. Lauren's seen too many Disney movies. Christine, what kind of weapon do you want? Anti-polar bear weapon. The machine gun? Okay.
I just want to sit back here.
So,
That mom said bazooka.
Refuge HQ is safe from polar bears. That's good. We had somebody wrote in from Canada working in the Arctic Circle, and it was like, what kind of kit does my husband need? Here's safety risks he's most likely to encounter. Accidents on the job, people behaving badly in the communities, super high crime rates, animal attacks, a dog or a polar bear. And I was like, I've never spec'd an anti-polar bear kit before, but this is cool.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Yep.
We do have some alpine camo left.
We do have some alpine camo left.
I'm just kidding.
No, I think they're sewn. They're on the shelf. You guys don't have to cut anymore. This sew team was just like, why did you say that? But yeah, so I said bare minimum on his carpenter's belt, okay, while he's at work,
Right.
and then a slick kit and a soft tee in his pocket when he's going to town where the bad people and the polar bears are. So, and a machine gun.
Yeah. Polar bear.
The Iridium group said, in the Arctic, massive bleeding could be through inches of clothing and may require dual TQs.
Yep. So that's a great point. You can apply tourniquets over clothing, asterisk. That you reach a point, usually with the big down puffy jackets, where there's too many layers for the tourniquet to constrict through all those layers to pinch off the bleeding vessel.
Polar bear attacks me. He's gonna need the tourniquet.
Oh snap! Terry said if a polar bear attacks me, he's gonna need the tourniquet.
Oh.
What are they?
Say it louder, Mike.
5 op facts in Alpine, 2 facts, and 1 SOB.
Oh, so in Alpine, multicam Alpine, which is the snow camo, we have 5 op facts remaining, 2 bare facts, and 1 SOB, small to back kit, which is a great choice. It's this little guy right here. You can maybe do this instead of the bare minimum, although the bare minimum is going to have some boo-boo stuff in it as well.
The Bat Mom said, and a boo-boo kit to mend the polar bear after you shoot it.
A polar bear is going to need more than Band-Aids. So let's go back to tourniquets in hypothermic situations, or potentially hypothermic situations, in the cold. So what you're going to want to do, remember earlier that I said during the E in March E, part of that is expose, and typically we would take our shears and make the patient trauma naked. We cut their clothes off of them so we can expose and then evaluate, check for wounds. Comma, asterisk, in the high Arctic, don't cut their clothes off of them because we need the clothes to keep them alive. So take the clothes off of them, identify the wounds, try and maintain the integrity of the clothes, and or, not kidding, duct tape. Okay, if you do have to cut their clothes off of them, fold the clothes back together, wrap with duct tape to hold the clothes back together because we need the body heat on the patient. So you expose the patient, get down to skin or one layer of clothing, apply your tourniquet, right? High and tight in the pocket in between the deltoid and the tricep. Get it around. Okay, cool. Man, that was a good one. That was a great one. Almost like I do this all the time. Okay, tourniquet on. See how quick that was? Then put their clothes back on them. And then that goes back to that dumb little pen that's in the end of the one knockoff tourniquet where you're going to write time here.
You know, written stuff with a tiny pen like that,
Yeah.
it's not...
Don't care. That pen's useless. Should we mark time on the tourniquet? Sure. Tourniquet applied, let's say, okay, 0900. Close enough to 0900. Tourniquet on. Cool. Put their jacket back on them. Now when we elevate, EMS may not know that there's a tourniquet on their arm right here. So what that means is we take our Sharpie and we put a T on their forehead. And that's universal pre-hospital trauma medicine. T on forehead means this patient has a tourniquet somewhere on their body. So in a wilderness setting or in a cold environment, don't cut the patient's clothes off. Maintain the integrity of the clothes because the clothes are part of their shelter that is keeping them from dying. So.
I didn't mention this before about the wilderness class. When you sign up for the wilderness class, today, everyone who's already signed up and everyone who will be signing up will be getting access to a private platform where we will help you prepare. We'll be doing a live Q&A. You'll find your packing list there, your timeline, everything.
And that's all on Mighty Networks
That's
too,
all on
right?
Mighty Networks. Yeah. So once you get on there, you'll be able to access other things if you've taken the class or sign up for the monthly and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, we got to go. We have our own classroom coming up, our Refuge internal classroom that we do every Thursday. And so thank you guys for being here. If you have any questions, need any help, if there's anything we can assist you with, if you need a kit for you or your school or your mutual assistance group or your church or your police cruiser or your boat or airplane or whatever, call us. Contact numbers right there on the website. Shoot us an email or hit the live chat. And I will tell you this, we are quoting and booking a lot of custom classes right now. I've been up to my ears on custom curriculum and I love it. It is it is awesome. Some of these curriculums that we're building right now are just incredible. And so if that's you, if you are a law enforcement officer who needs their 8-hour TCCC, or you're a church security team that doesn't know what they don't know or whatever, just holler at us. However we can serve you and serve the kingdom in the process, we'd be happy to do so. And with that, we love you, bless you, have an awesome day. We'll see you when we see you. Stay safe, carry a first aid kit, carry an effing tourniquet, and bye.